Welcome to my channel.
And this is English Podcast Station.
Hey you! So you're looking to build up your English vocabulary, right? To really get a handle on more words and maybe move past just the basics?
Yeah.
Then you are definitely in the right place. This deep dive, it's all about practical and honestly, maybe even enjoyable ways to grow that vocabulary, especially if you're, sort of starting out.
Exactly. We've looked into some discussions from the English Learning Podcast and also a few different study guides, really focusing on how to make new words actually stick.
Okay.
Our mission really is to give you strategies you can actually put into practice, things that feel manageable, and that'll help build a really solid word base without feeling totally overwhelmed by dictionaries and stuff.
Right, avoiding that drowning in words feeling. So let's just dive right in. Why is putting in this effort growing your vocabulary? Why is it so important for someone learning English?
Well, I think the best way to think about it is vocabulary is like the absolute foundation for communicating confidently.
Yeah.
It's the building blocks, the essential bits for everything: speaking, listening, reading, writing, doing it all fluently.
Yeah.
You might have, say, decent grammar,
Right.
but without the actual words, it's a bit like having a great recipe, but your cupboards are bare.
Yeah.
You just can't make the meal.
That's a really good way to put it. And I think we've all been there, haven't we? That frustration. You know exactly what you want to say in your own language. The idea is perfectly clear in your head.
Yep.
But the English words, they just seem to vanish. Or you never learned them in the first place.
And it affects more than just speaking. Having more words really unlocks deeper understanding when you're listening, like to English conversations or maybe podcasts like this one, or just trying to follow a movie.
Yeah.
You spend less mental energy just trying to figure out unknown words and more time absorbing the message and enjoying it.
Okay, let's try and picture this. Imagine two learners, right? Learner A knows about, say, 500 English words. Learner B knows closer to 2,000. That second learner, the one with 2,000 words, they're going to handle way more situations with confidence, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. They'll understand a much wider range of things they read or hear. And honestly, their whole learning journey is just going to feel richer, more rewarding.
Yeah.
And what's really cool, I think, is that as your vocabulary gets bigger, it actually fuels your curiosity.
Oh, so?
Well, the more words you know, the more you start noticing new ones. You hear them in songs, you see them in articles, just in everyday chat.
Oh, okay.
It creates this kind of positive cycle. Your growing knowledge naturally makes you want to learn even more. It pulls you in.
Okay, so we're definitely agreed. Building that vocabulary base is crucial. Now, let's talk about some common ways people try to do this that, maybe aren't the most effective. What are some traps learners should try to avoid?
Yeah, good question. I think one really, really common thing is trying to memorize just long, random lists of words, completely out of context.
Right, just the word and maybe a definition.
Exactly. People often feel like, if I just learn hundreds of words quickly, that's the key.
Yeah.
But without a sentence or a real situation or some kind of connection to hang it on, it's just incredibly hard for your brain to actually hold onto that word long term.
It kind of reminds me of that generous uncle who just gives you a bag full of random objects. Like, here's a rubber duck, a single sock, a screwdriver. You appreciate it, but you're thinking, okay, how do these connect? What do I do with this?
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
It really is. Another thing to be a bit careful about is always relying on direct translation from your native language.
Ah, okay. Because it feels like the quickest way sometimes.
It can seem like it, especially at the start. And look, translation can be helpful sometimes.
Yeah.
But if you depend on it all the time, it can actually slow you down, and often it leads to mistakes.
Why is that?
Because word meanings, the little shades of meaning, how words are actually used, they don't always line up perfectly between languages. There are nuances.
Right. So you might pick a word because it looks like the right translation from your language.
Yeah.
But in English, it just sounds a bit off, or maybe even means something slightly different in that context.
Precisely. And another point is that lots of learners focus too much on just passively encountering words.
What do you mean by passively?
Like, they might read a definition, maybe see the word in a text and think, okay, I know that word now, but they never actually try to use it themselves in their own speaking or their own writing.
Ah, so it's that classic use it or lose it idea.
Exactly. Vocabulary is very much like a muscle. You really need to exercise it, use it regularly to make it strong. Just recognizing a word when you see it, that's not quite enough. You need to actively work with it.
Gotcha. Okay.
And here's something that might surprise a few people. There's often this idea floating around that to sound smart or fluent, you need to immediately start learning really big, fancy, complex words.
Oh, yeah. I can see that temptation. You want to sound impressive, right?
Totally. But the reality is, especially when you're starting out, using common, everyday English clearly and naturally, that's way more powerful.
Really? More powerful than knowing fancy words.
For clear communication, absolutely. Your main goal, especially early on, is just to be understood clearly. And mastering that core fundamental vocabulary is the absolute key to doing that.
That makes sense.
Simple, clear English is incredibly effective. Building a strong base with words people actually use frequently will help you much, much more in the long run than, say, struggling to awkwardly fit in some advanced word you're not really comfortable with yet. It's about clarity, confidence with the basics first.
Okay, so we've talked about why it's important and some things maybe not to do. Let's flip it then. Building on that, what are some really effective, practical steps you can take to actually, grow your English vocabulary?
Okay, yeah. Well, the sources we looked at, they consistently pointed to the power of small, consistent habits, things you can weave into your daily life.
So not necessarily huge blocks of study time?
Not necessarily, no. You don't always need hours and hours. Even short, focused bursts of activity done regularly can lead to really significant progress over time.
Okay, I like the sound of that. Let's get specific. What are some of these practical habits?
Well, first up, a really big one. Make it a point to read something in English every single day.
Every day, even just a little bit.
Even just a little bit. It could be a short news article online, maybe a blog post you find interesting, or hey, even just a couple of paragraphs from a book.
What's so special about reading for vocabulary?
What's really great about reading is how it shows you words in their natural environment. Inside sentences connected to other ideas and context.
Okay.
You see how words actually work, how they function together. And that helps your understanding and your memory way more than just looking at a word on its own in a list.
And I guess you don't have to start with Shakespeare or super complex novels right away.
Oh, definitely not. Please don't feel you have to. Start with stuff you actually find interesting, and that feels like it's at about your level. Honestly, even just reading the English descriptions on websites you like, or the labels on food packaging.
Really? Like on a cereal box?
Yeah, why not? It introduces you to new words in a context that's relevant to your life.
Okay, reading daily. Got it. What else?
Another really valuable habit.
Yeah.
Actively listen to English content.
So things like podcasts.
Exactly. Podcasts, music, news reports, YouTube videos, maybe audiobooks. But the key word there is actively listening.
Meaning
you're actually paying attention, trying to understand, not just having it on as background noise while you do something else.
And should I worry if I don't understand every single word I hear?
Not at all. Especially at first. The goal here is more about immersing yourself in the sounds, the rhythm of English, getting a feel for how words are actually used in speech, and trying to pick out words that seem to pop up again and again.
So if you hear a word multiple times...
That's usually a pretty good sign. It might be a useful one to learn. Yeah.
Okay, reading, listening actively. What's next?
This leads perfectly into the next habit. Keeping some kind of vocabulary journal or notebook.
Like physically writing things down?
It could be physical, yeah. A simple notebook works great. Or it could be digital, a document on your computer, maybe a notes app on your phone, whatever works for you.
And what goes in this journal? Just the word?
Well, the word, yes. But the key is to go beyond just the word. Make it personal. Try writing the meaning, but in your own words. How do you understand it?
Okay.
And definitely write down the sentence or the phrase where you first found it. That context is gold. Maybe add a quick translation in your own language at first, if that helps lock it in. The real goal is creating a personal connection to that new word.
Makes sense. It's not just an abstract thing then.
Exactly. But this journal is only really useful if you actually look at it again.
Okay, so that's the next habit.
You got it. Review your vocabulary journal regularly. Honestly, even just 5 minutes a day. Just flip through a few pages, try to remember what the words mean, maybe say them out loud, or try using them in a new quick sentence in your head.
That repetition seems really important, doesn't it?
Hugely important. The more you actively revisit those words, engage with them again, the stronger those connections become in your brain. It just makes them easier to remember and, crucially, easier to use when you actually need them in a conversation.
Okay, daily reading, active listening, keeping and reviewing a journal. Any other daily habits?
Here's one that's a bit different but can be surprisingly effective. Try changing the language settings on your phone or maybe your social media apps to English.
Oh, that sounds a bit scary, maybe?
It might feel a little strange at first, yeah. But think about it. It gives you constant sort of passive exposure to English vocabulary as you just go about your normal digital life.
So I'm not actively studying, but I'm still seeing the words.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like subtly weaving English into your routine without even trying too hard. You might be quite surprised how many new words you start picking up just by seeing them in your phone menus, app instructions, things like that.
Interesting. Okay, one more.
One more for the daily habits list.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate just talking to yourself in English.
Talking to myself out loud.
You can. Or just in your head. Describe what you're doing as you do it. I am making coffee now. Think about your plans for the day in English. Narrate your actions, even simple ones.
How does that help with vocabulary?
It helps you connect new words directly to your everyday life and actions. Plus, it starts training your brain to actually think more directly in English, rather than always translating.
Wow, okay. So those are some really solid, actionable daily habits. Reading, listening, the journal, reviewing, changing tech language, and even that internal English chatter.
Yeah, and like we said, the absolute key with all of these is consistency. Small, regular efforts really do add up over time. They compound, and you will see noticeable progress.
Right. It's not about cramming for one day, it's about the long game. Okay, now, studying vocabulary can sometimes feel a bit dry, can't it?
It definitely can.
So let's shift gears a little. How can we make this whole process more, well, fun? Because let's face it, when you're enjoying something, you're much more likely to stick with it, right?
Absolutely. That enjoyment factor is huge for motivation and for making information stick better. Learning new words really doesn't have to feel like a boring chore.
Okay, so let's explore some of these fun, maybe more creative techniques. What have you got?
Well, one classic is using flashcards, but maybe with a twist to make them more effective.
Okay, not just word on one side, definition on the other.
Right. Try adding a good example sentence, one that really shows how the word is used in context, not just what it means. You could even draw a simple picture or symbol on the card, make it visual. That engages different parts of your brain.
And I guess there are apps for this now too, right? Digital flashcards.
Oh, tons. Apps like Anki or Quizlet are fantastic. You can create interactive flashcards, often with sound, maybe images, and many of them use smart algorithms like spaced repetition.
Oh, showing you the words you're about to forget.
Exactly. It makes reviewing really efficient, so you spend more time on the words you actually need to practice.
Okay, smart flashcards. What else is fun?
Movies and TV. Watching English language movies, your favorite TV series, even cartoons can be an incredibly enjoyable way to learn.
How do you make that active learning, not just passive watching?
Good question. Maybe start with subtitles in your own language if you need to. Then, as you get more comfortable, try switching to English subtitles.
You can see the words as you hear them.
Precisely. It's just such a great way to hear how words are pronounced naturally, see them used in real conversations, pick up on slang or informal language. And you're being entertained at the same time.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to hit pause if you hear a cool new word or phrase. Jot it down in your journal. Maybe even try saying it out loud yourself.
Okay, movies and TV shows. Makes sense. What about games?
Oh yeah, games are brilliant. Bringing word games into your learning routine can be surprisingly effective and, well, fun.
Like what kind of games?
Think about stuff like free online games like Wordle, which is super popular, or crosswords. You can find easy ones online. There are loads of vocabulary puzzle apps too.
Right.
And lots of language learning apps actually build in game elements, points, levels, rewards. It makes it feel less like studying and more like playing.
Yeah, it adds that little bit of challenge, maybe competition sometimes.
Exactly. A bit of fun and motivation never hurts.
Okay, flashcards, movies, games, any other slightly different ideas?
Here's a really simple one, especially if you're a visual learner. Try labeling things around your house.
Labeling things.
With what? With sticky notes. Write the English name of the object on a sticky note and stick it on. Door, chair, window, refrigerator.
Yeah, okay.
Every single time you use or even just walk past that object, you see the English word for it.
That's actually quite clever. It's like constant passive reinforcement without a dedicated study session.
Totally. Every time you open the door, you're subtly strengthening that word in your memory.
I like that one. Okay, what else?
Get creative. Try making up silly, maybe imaginative stories using the new words you're learning.
Silly stories.
Yeah. The more unusual or funny or weird the story is, the easier it often is for your brain to remember the words in it. Our minds tend to latch onto things that are a bit out of the ordinary or have an emotional hook.
Okay, so don't just make a normal sentence, make it memorable.
Exactly. Like that example I heard once. Someone learning words made up a sentence like, the purple elephant politely asked the grumpy tomato for a tiny umbrella.
Okay, yeah, you'd probably remember politely and tiny and umbrella from that.
Right. The more bizarre, the better sometimes.
Love it. One more fun technique.
Let's not forget music. Listening to songs in English. That's huge for a lot of people.
How can you use music specifically for vocabulary?
Well, find songs you like. Look up the lyrics. Read them while you listen. Then try to figure out what the song is about, what the words mean in that context.
It connects with emotions too, I guess.
Definitely. It's fun. It often connects emotionally, and it can be super effective for learning vocabulary, picking up phrases, and also improving your pronunciation and getting the rhythm of the language.
Okay, so lots of fun ideas there. Smart flashcards, movies, TV, games, labeling stuff, silly stories, music. The main point seems to be find what you enjoy.
Absolutely. Experiment. See what works for you. Maybe you love the structure of flashcard apps. Maybe you'd rather just watch films. Maybe you're a word puzzle fanatic. Mix it up. The more you find ways to make it enjoyable, the more likely you are to stay motivated and actually see that vocabulary grow.
Right. So now you're finding these words, maybe through reading or listening, or maybe using fun techniques to remember them, but just knowing them isn't the final piece, is it?
No, not quite. That's a crucial step, learning and remembering. But the real progress, the thing that makes the biggest difference, happens when you start actively using those new words yourself in your own communication.
Okay. That's the bridge we need to cross. Moving words from that passive list, yeah, I think I've seen that word, to the active list. I can actually use this word confidently. How do we do that?
Well, one of the best ways, I think, is to create your own personal example sentences for new words you learn.
My own sentences, not just copying the dictionary example.
Exactly. Instead of just relying on a generic example, try to write a sentence that actually connects to your life, your own experiences, maybe your opinions or interests.
Okay, so if I learn the word, say, vibrant, instead of just memorizing full of energy and life, I should think, oh, the market near my house has really vibrant colors. Or maybe my friend has a very vibrant personality, something real to me.
Precisely. That personal connection makes the word much more meaningful, much more memorable, and easier to pull out of your memory when you actually want to use it in conversation.
Okay, making personal sentences. Good tip. What else helps activate vocabulary?
Another great tip is to consciously try using new words when you're speaking. And this includes just talking to yourself.
Back to talking to ourselves again.
Yep, it works. If you're, say, cooking dinner, you could think or even say out loud, okay, I need to chop these vegetables now. They look very fresh. Or, this recipe seems quite straightforward.
It feels a bit weird maybe, but I see the point. It's practice without pressure.
Exactly. It's a fantastic way to practice actually forming the words, using them in a low-stakes environment. It gets your mouth and your brain used to producing them.
And then the next step is obviously using them with other people.
Absolutely. Make a real effort. Try to slide those new words into your conversations, maybe with friends, or if you have a language exchange partner, or even just in online chats or forums.
Even if I'm not 100% sure I'm using it perfectly.
Especially then, don't be afraid to just try it out. What's the worst that can happen?
I guess someone might correct me.
Which is great. Or they might just understand you from the context. You could even give people a heads up sometimes.
Like how?
You could say something like, hey, just letting you know, I learned a new word today, fascinating, and I'm trying to practice using it. So bear with me if I sound a bit clunky.
Okay. Most people would probably be cool with that.
Most people would be supportive, yeah. They might even help you use it better if you get it slightly wrong.
Okay, using it in speech. What about writing?
Definitely don't forget writing. Try working new vocabulary into things you write anyway. Social media posts, emails, maybe just your personal journal entries if you keep one.
So another way to actively engage with the word.
Exactly. It gives you another valuable chance to really think about the word, how it fits, and use it in a real context. It helps solidify your understanding.
Here's an idea. Maybe pick 1 or 2 new words each day. And set yourself a little challenge. Try to use each of those words, say, 3 times during the day, in speaking or writing.
Ooh, I like that. A mini mission for the day that really forces you to actively recall them and find opportunities to apply them. That's a great active use strategy.
Yeah, seems doable.
Ultimately, the more different ways you actively use a new word, speaking it, writing it, thinking it, even just saying it out loud to yourself in the shower, the faster it's going to move from that passive, I recognize it category to the active, I can use it category.
Right. Don't just wait for the perfect moment that might never come. Just try and weave them in. Yeah. And I guess that leads us to something important. It's okay if it's not perfect when you try.
Oh, absolutely crucial. Which brings us to maybe the most vital point of all. Please don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah, that fear is real for a lot of learners, isn't it? Worrying about sounding stupid or getting the word wrong.
It totally is. We get that. That fear of imperfection can be a massive barrier. But honestly, mistakes, they're not failures. They're actually incredibly valuable learning opportunities. Think of them as data points.
How so?
Well, every time you try to use a new word, even if you get it slightly wrong, you're actively engaging with English. You're pushing your comfort zone. And if someone does gently correct you, that's amazing feedback.
Because now you know the right way.
Exactly. Now you have a clearer idea of how to use it correctly, and you're actually much less likely to make that same mistake again because you've learned from it directly.
That's a good perspective. It's not embarrassing, it's just learning.
Right. And think about this. Even native English speakers make mistakes sometimes. We mispronounce things, use slightly the wrong word.
Yeah.
It happens. So please, don't let that fear hold you back. Try to embrace those little stumbles. Learn from them. And just keep practicing. Keep using the language. The more you do it, the more comfortable and confident you will naturally become. Mistakes are just proof you're trying.
Okay, that's really encouraging. So let's maybe try and pull this all together as we wrap up this deep dive on building vocabulary for beginners.
Sounds good.
We've covered quite a bit. We talked about why vocabulary is so fundamental, those building blocks, right?
Yep, the foundation.
We looked at common mistakes to maybe steer clear of, like random lists or relying only on translation.
Right, and just passive learning.
Then we got into the power of those consistent daily habits: reading, listening, journaling, reviewing.
Small steps, big results over time.
And we explored ways to make it fun: games, movies, music, sticky notes.
Finding what works for you.
Then the crucial step of actually using the words, making your own sentences, speaking, writing.
Activating the vocabulary. Use it or lose it.
And finally, that really important mindset piece: embracing mistakes as part of the journey, not something to fear.
Absolutely essential for growth.
Okay, so as a little sort of immediate takeaway, maybe a mini challenge for everyone listening.
Let's do it.
Think of maybe just one or perhaps two new English words you've come across recently, maybe even one we used today.
Okay.
Try right now or later today to write just one short sentence using each of those words. Make it about you, your life, your interests if you can.
Make it personal.
Exactly. And if you're feeling just a little bit brave, try saying those sentences out loud. Just hear yourself using the word.
Nice. A small, actionable step.
Yeah, because remember everyone, building your English vocabulary, it really is a journey. It's definitely not a race or a sprint.
It takes time, it takes consistent effort, and it really helps to have a positive attitude about it all. Every single new word you learn, every connection you make between words, that's a real step forward, even if it feels small in the moment.
So the advice is, start small. Definitely be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself through the process. Oh, and take a second to celebrate the small wins. Notice your progress. And most importantly, just keep that curiosity alive. Keep exploring English. You absolutely can expand your vocabulary and become a more confident, fluent speaker.
And just think about this for a second. Imagine how much more confident you might feel in your very next English conversation just by trying out one or two of these simple ideas regularly. So maybe ask yourself, what's one fun method or maybe one simple habit that you feel kind of inspired to try out, maybe starting today?
That's a great final thought. Well, thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into building your English vocabulary.
My pleasure.
We really hope these strategies felt both helpful and encouraging. Keep learning, keep practicing, and we'll look forward to exploring another topic with you next time.